Hi guys, Kurt from Time Machine Transport again. Just got home from dinner. So I'm gonna go back out. I got my tablet and my speakers set up for you guys. I'm sure no one's gonna be watching this live. So like I said, I normally don't do live, but my video I did early this morning finally uploaded to YouTube. Excuse me. Finally uploaded the video up to YouTube. It's crazy. So I'm sure. So now I think I'm just going to end up doing these live because when I did the live, it actually uploaded very quickly. So I have the tablet ready, got my phone, got a little speaker ready, and got a glass of whiskey. So this is the thing. So Richard Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, since the mid-2000s has been very, very transparent when it comes to his admiration of China's dictatorship. His words were, he admires China's dictatorship. So I don't know if you guys watched the first video. I mean, of course, people have watched the live stream. I've already seen that. And then finally, I got a few views on the Will China Invade the U.S. Part 1 of several videos. So I want to show you guys, I Googled some stuff about Richard Trudeau. And I'll show you guys. I'll see. Man, I don't know how to share. Like I said, this is all new to me. I don't know how to share or click on links or whatever the case is. So let's see. Oops. Did I just screw some? Oh no, there we go. Okay. So I'm gonna put this in the screen for you guys. I don't think you guys will be able to see that. Hold on. Shut off my office lights. All right. You guys still can't see that, huh? Damn it. How is that going to work? Oh, there we go. All right. So I'm sorry I have to show it to you guys like this, but this is about Justin Trudeau in Canada. There's several references to where he is quoted and videoed, and I'll just kind of read them off to you guys, but you guys can go on Google and check it out. So Justin Trudeau says he admires China dictatorship. Trudeau admires China's dictatorship. YouTube. Justin Trudeau's foolish China remarks spark anger. CBS or CBC News, and that was back in 2013. Canada proud Trudeau admires China's dictatorship on Facebook, and that was May 22nd of 2019. Trudeau under fire for expressing admiration for China's basic dictatorship back in November of 2013. Then Notebook asks what country he most admires. Trudeau answers is no longer China. Now he says no longer China, and that was in 2017. But there's more and more. Here's another. Shear says Trudeau admires China's basic dictatorship in reference to 2013 remark, and that was May of 2019. Excuse me. Got this thing with my throat. Sorry. Let's see. Editorial. Stop admiring China's basic dictatorship, Toronto Sun, and that was in May 7th of 2020. And it goes on from there. I mean, it just, there's article after article after article about how Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, has been quoted and videoed on admiring China's dictatorship. So that right there, that's kind of where, and it all relates at the end of the day. And like I said, of the videos that I'll be putting up are going to be, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of supports my theory, I guess. And when I went on JK Bugout's channel, and I typed in an extremely long reply or comment on his video. And then I also went on Logic Before Authority's channel, and I left a comment on one of his videos as well. And I've gotten people come back and they're like, wow, I believe the same thing. And then there's people that are like, wow, crazy. But then had some comments come back and say, I've kind of thought of the same thing. So with that said, we're going to go into more and more things. It really sucks I have to do this on my tablet because I don't really know. Like I said, it's the content, obviously. Like I think I downloaded the video 9-ish, something like that this morning. And it's now 17 after 8. And when my wife and I were out at dinner, it finally uploaded at around 8 o'clock or something like that, 7:45-ish. And I really think it's because of the content. So obviously YouTube knows that these conversations or these videos are bad for business and bad for our government. So sorry. Excuse me. So on the part 1 video that obviously I did the live stream that just kind of explained what I'll be doing. And then the part 1 video kind of showed a little bit on some stuff. We're going to go through some more videos and then we're going to go ahead and do a map and everything. And I looked at how to, I guess I should probably go over my theory in this video as well. So my theory, so there's rumors of the Mexican government signed, contracts with China, and they're manufacturing tanks and heavy armory. There's more and more rumors, and I've actually heard that it's not even rumor, that it's fact. I didn't see for myself, so I can't say that it's fact. So with that being said, if this is true and it's not a rumor, there's also rumors, and I've heard also that, if the video I showed earlier on the part 1, there was a gentleman, what's his name? I'm sorry, I forgot his name. It is, and you guys should go over and check out his channel. Let's see, I'm sorry, I should have been more prepared. Smokey Hardwick. So I shared his couple of his videos that he had on there. And so I'm not the only person that's talking about this, obviously. So this is, and like I said, you guys are going to think I'm a lunatic, but I'm really not. I think it's very plausible. And if we Americans are so arrogant that it would never happen to us, right? So, damn it, I wish, I don't want to waste a wish on that. So let's go ahead and look up. I had to go on my Google search. All right. All right. So I went on Google here and I said, show me a map of the Mississippi River. And it goes along with my theory on this. How did I just get kicked out of my stuff? What is up with that? How did that happen? That's weird. All of a sudden, my screen, something else popped up. So, I don't know if you guys can see this or not. No, that's not going to work. I'm sorry. Anyways, you guys have to kind of go on there. I got to find a better way how to show you guys. So, pull up the map of the United States, go on Google and put in, show me a map of the Mississippi River. So the Mississippi River starts up in Minnesota and it flows out into the Gulf of, it flows down into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, I did a video on this during the Floyd thing, how Minnesota or Minneapolis and St. Paul are key to an invasion. I'm not a military philosopher. I'm not a military strategist. I mean, I did my time in a combat unit, and it just kind of makes sense at the end of the day. So if you look at things the way the chaos is now, and like I said in the other live stream, Trump will not be reelected. It's just not in the cards, unfortunately. Obviously, I'm a Trump supporter. I voted for Trump, and my wife did, and a lot of my friends and family. So I will vote for Trump. I don't think it's going to help, but I'm also not going to vote for Biden. And I really think that we Americans. Oh, thanks, Believe, for coming on. I really believe that our duty as Americans is to vote. So back to the theory. With Mexico building a lot of Chinese tanks and armory, and Canada obviously having Richard Trudeau as their prime minister, who he obviously is in bed with China. And the last video, excuse me, on part one, I think Canada exports about $97 billion a year, and about $24 billion they export to China. So if they don't have a great relationship with China, they're going to lose billions of dollars, and that's not too nice for Canada. And actually, it's a really good question. For what's the population of Canada?
In 2019, the population of Canada was 37,589,262.
Okay. So there's almost 38 million people in Canada. That's not a lot, obviously, for the size of Canada. I mean, I've never been to Canada, but it's obviously very rural and it's very sparse. So anyways, with that population, obviously they need to, I mean, with that kind of population, only 38 million, and you're exporting $97 billion a year, that's a lot of money. But if you lose a quarter of that, that's a lot of loss. So that's where them being in bed with China is so important. And obviously Mexico, being that they were kind of up in arms with Mexico right now. Now, if Mexico, if you're the Chinese government, and I know I'm kind of jumping around, I apologize, I'm just kind of nervous on the live stream. I don't really do live streams. So besides today, obviously, but I've never done a live stream other than that. So if you look at, so they say that, well, Donald Trump said that there was 13,000 Mexican troops on our southern border, right? That they're there to protect our borders. Well, we have National Guard down in that area. Why are we not using our National Guard for that? First off. Second off, why are we trusting the Mexican government to guard our southern border? And I went on Joe Rogan. There was a video on Joe Rogan, and that was one of the many videos, the 2 videos that I did yesterday and the 2 videos I did today. On the Joe Rogan show about 9 months ago, he had a gentleman on there. I'll just pop it up here real quick. I just got to get into my history, and we'll see exactly where it is here. Hope I didn't delete it. Darn it. It's crazy how you don't really think that you deleted anything. I got to open up this window real quick. Hold on. sorry. All right, so I'm looking into my that's weird. All right, let's go into Joe Rogan. I'm really sorry, guys. It's right here. Okay. And this was about 9 months ago. It's really odd that and obviously it's not a conspiracy against my videos where, oh, YouTube's chopping my history. But there was, oh man, come on, really? Anyways, so there was a person a while back that was in charge of the of Mexico's country security, and during the El Chapo regime, I guess they say that he was the person that was in charge of the Sinaloa cartel. Well, there was all his compadre, this guy named Miles, I forget the last name. They said that actually this gentleman that was on Joe Rogan's show was actually the person that was in charge of the Sinaloa cartel. Well, the United States of America basically gave the thumbs up to this guy. His last name is Luna. And you can look it up. Look on Joe Rogan's podcast, or you can look on anything. Just his last name is Luna. And Luna was okayed by the U.S. He was the good guy in the United States. Oh, he's great. And Mexico, we're safe because he's in charge of Mexico's security. Well, he's now in prison because he was corrupt. So now the U.S. that gave this guy the thumbs up now he's in prison. So these are the people that we're trusting with our southern border, which is security, which is pretty crazy at the end of the day, right? So if you, and the reason why I'm bringing that up is if China is, if Mexico has signed these huge contracts to manufacture tanks and heavy armory for China, and there's more and more people coming out saying this. Like I said, it's rumor because I haven't researched it, but more and more people are coming out saying it. And is it us crazy conspiracy people? Possibly, but I doubt it. Of course, America and the people that don't want this stuff to come out, we're the crazy ones at the end of the day. So now, if you're the Chinese, let's go back to the southern border. So if you have 13,000 Mexican soldiers or troops on our southern border, and Trump says, "Oh yeah, they're there to protect our border." Well, why do we not have? And I know I'm kicking the can down the road. How many people have already said that, right? Like, why don't we not have our own National Guard on the border? That's a great question. It's part of their plan. It's their agenda. It's all going to happen. And this has probably been. I mean, you don't just plan to invade a country overnight. I mean, it takes 10 years, probably, if not more. So they've been working on this for quite some time. People have said that there's or Chinese soldiers or troops in Mexico, and there's Chinese troops or soldiers in Canada. So obviously it's been going on for a long time, because the stuff I was watching and reading over the weekend or on Sunday, they're saying it's back to 2001. So, I mean, that's a long time. And they're saying, are they still there? My true belief is, yeah, they are still there. And it's just a matter of time very soon that this is going to happen. Now, they say that the drug cartel pretty much run the military in Mexico. They run everything, right? I mean, they've already found that the previous president was corrupt. They have so much proof that he was accepting bribes and everything else. And now there's stuff coming out that the current president is accepting bribes. And, at the end of the day, the cartel are going to kill you horribly. So I'm not justifying what they're doing. I'm just saying you kind of have no choice. But that's, if you're going to go in and you're going to run for president, you already know this, right? So Now, you have, according to Trump, 13,000 Mexican soldiers on our southern border. And if the drug cartel control those troops, then how is that securing our southern border? Now, if you're the Chinese, strategically, what are you going to do militarily, strategically? Why are you not going to approach the drug cartel, fund them with hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're going to allow Chinese soldiers or mercenaries to come into the U.S. and to set up camp in Mexico? So as the Chinese government, your first action would be to make sure that you are capable of having a great relationship with Mexico and Canada, which it seems like they probably do more than likely with the cartel. So that takes care of the Mexican border. Now, it seems like Justin Trudeau, by obviously what I just showed you, him, quote unquote, admiring the Chinese dictatorship. So what is that telling him, right? And they have so much money on the line, billions, tens of billions of dollars yearly, to help their economy. So I really think, and as I was looking at stuff yesterday, there were a lot of things on there that said China and Canada were kind of back and forth because of bad meat and this and that and so on and so on and so on. I really believe that a lot of this stuff is just for show. I believe that America right now, everything that's going on is like just a huge soap opera. So and like I said, you kind of have to do your own due diligence and do your research or whatever the case is. Unfortunately, I don't, and maybe I really shouldn't have come on here unless I really knew how to, go through the whole system and operate everything. But this is very pressing. I truly believe that this is very, very pressing. So I really feel that it's very essential that people are aware of what's going on. I don't know if I'm, telling people something that they don't already know, or if I'm just reiterating what you already know. I don't know. So now with Mexico, we just talked about that. Now with Canada, there's more and more, like I said, Smokey's channel, he put some stuff on there just recently. You guys should go over to his channel, check it out. He's a pretty interesting guy. So back to the theory. All the wildfires out in California, Oregon, and Washington, they say that this year they've never seen the amount of human started fires previous this year. They say this has never happened before. There's more and more police officers coming out saying that these fires are arson. So my question is, why set the West Coast on fire? Why intentionally set it on fire? If it's happening by lightning strikes, or if it's happening by, a campfire, and then the Santa Monica winds come, or whatever they're called, and they're blowing embers around, and that's how it starts. Okay, that's one thing. But now, and Logic Before Authority he did a few videos on these laser weapons, or some plasma, or whatever the case is. If that's the case, okay, that's the case. But you have to ask yourself, why? Why are you intentionally setting? Why not the whole entire country, right? Why not the whole entire country? Why just Washington, Oregon, and California year after year after year? Now, going back to the 2001 thing, where these people say that, they've seen Chinese troops in Mexico and up in Canada. So if this is true, obviously they've been working on this for quite some time. Just like the forest fires have been going on for quite some time. Yes. So over the last 4 years, there have been tens of millions of acres burned. on the West Coast. This year already is over 4 million in California, Oregon over 1 million acres, Washington over 700,000 acres. Now, 2018 was over 3 million acres. 2019 was, I mean, so year after year after year. So if you calculate from 4 or 5 years ago, there's tens and tens of millions of acres burned. Why? And everybody said the paradise fires with, and I'm not trying to be that guy. I'm not trying to sound crazy, and I know I do. Whatever the case is, so be it. Personally, I don't believe that they were started by some sort of laser weapon or some sort of, high-speed secret weapon or whatever by the government. Or I haven't seen it, so I don't really know that, right? But ask yourself a logical question. If more and more people are coming out and law enforcement are coming out saying these are intentionally set and Paradise was intentionally set, Oregon intentionally set, Washington, so on and so on, why? You have to ask yourself, why? Why just the West Coast, right? Theory. You have the troops in Mexico that you've been basically setting up for the last decade or longer. You have the troops in Canada you've been setting up for the last decade or longer. And you've been burning the West Coast for the last decade, right? There's so much there's so much forest, and I drive semi coast to coast, so I've been out there, can tell you how many times. So I see these. I mean, there's so much forestry out on the West Coast, so much forestry. And people say, well, why not the East Coast? The East Coast, the Smoky Mountains, the Appalachians, up in Vermont and Maine. I mean, they all have dense woods. Why not there? Well, this is why. Because if you look at a map and you look and you say, you see Mexico, right? There's a border from California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. And then you have Canada all the way straight across the board, the top, right? Well, people will say, well, why not the East Coast? Well, because Mexico is not on that side. So you have to have that connection with Mexico to Canada. You need that because the whole entire West Coast would basically be the enemies, the Chinese, right? So you have the troops set up in Mexico, troops set up in Canada. You burn as much of the forest as you can. Why? Because if you're moving a large force from south to north or north to south, the less trees you have, the more visibility you have, the less defensive positions you're going to have, the less resistance you're going to have. There's nowhere to hide. If you don't have forest, where are you going to hide? To the east of that, you're going to have Idaho, which that's way too far east. But to the east of California or Oregon, you have Idaho and the lower part of Idaho, and then you have Nevada, and then down by the bottom of California, you have Arizona. So that's already all pretty much cleared out. But the reason being is you have to remove all these trees because you have to move forces very rapidly and very efficiently without resistance. So therefore, I really think that they're starting these fires year after year. And like I said, I'm thinking because of the things that they're saying. I mean, I'm not saying that they're starting fires until law enforcement. There's more and more people coming out the last few years saying these are arson. These are intentionally set. And then if you have people on the other end saying, oh, they're laser weapons or plasma, but why? Why? So you clear out the trees. Now you can move your force very fast. You don't have defensive positions. You can't hide. You basically can see for miles instead of 100 feet or 200 feet. Now you clear out the trees. Also during these fires, now you clear out the people's homes, the people's jobs. You create poor air quality. Seattle had the worst air quality just last month or the month before than anywhere in the world, from what I read. That's just what I read. So you burn their homes. Well, you burn the trees, you burn the homes, you burn the businesses, you create poor air quality. People are moving out of the West Coast by droves, right? People don't have jobs or a place to live or poor air. They're going to move away. Less people means less resistance. Less people means less resupply to military bases and posts. So up in Seattle, I've already delivered there a few times. They have a huge aircraft carrier base in Seattle. You have Army Rangers in Fort Lewis, Washington. You have a huge tank post in Fort Irwin, California. You have another naval base in Portland, pretty large one. You have San Diego is a huge naval and marine base. Over in Texas, you have Fort Bliss, Texas. Plus, you have a huge Air Force bases there. You also have New Mexico. There's Air Force bases there. Arizona, there's Air Force bases there. So on and so on and so on. So there's a lot of huge military area or military bases and posts. If you're in the Army, they're called posts. If you're in the Marines or the Navy, they're called bases and Air Force bases, but the Army calls them posts. I was in an airborne unit over in Vicenza, Italy, so I mean I did my time. So anyways, so if you once you clear the trees, you clear the people, you basically get it battle ready for an invading force. Now, on people don't realize. Well, I mean, we were in a secure post in Vicenza, Italy. It was a secure post. There's open military posts and there's secured closed military posts where you can't just drive through or whatever the case is. So people don't realize how dependent the military is on civilians. Civilians, there's a lot of civilian jobs on military bases and posts, and the civilians resupply you with food, medical supplies, so on and so on and so on. So again, you burn the houses, you burn the businesses, you create poor air quality, the people are going to move away. So now, once again, less resistance. Second, now you don't have any resupply for the military bases or posts. Now, once this is all taken care of and they decide to pull the trigger, and I really think it's going to be right after the election, and that's why I say Trump's not going to be reelected, because he's the only president that would really stand up to an invading force. So Trump is not in the cards. The deep state or whatever the case is, and I know I sound completely lunatistical. I know I sound so bizarre, off the wall, like, dude, what are you smoking? This will never happen. Well, I'll tell you why this is going to happen. If you remember last New Year's Eve when you were celebrating when that ball dropped and you were hugging and kissing all your family and friends and hoping that 2020 is going to be a great new year and this and that. If you would have told those people, including myself and my wife and my friends and so on, if you were to tell me that we were going to be burning down this country and wearing masks and that America would be pretty close to bankrupt in 2020, I would be like, what are you smoking? I want some of that great stuff too. The fact is, don't think it cannot happen here. It will happen here. And this is the reason why. So, like I already said, you got the militaries, you got the troops already located, you got the forest burned down, the people removed. Now it's time to act. Part of this military plan is when they come out of the north and they come out of the south, they'll come around, they'll they'll come in from the sea as well, is my theory. At the same time, you have to come from Canada into Minnesota. And the reason why, and when I did my video months back during the Floyd thing, I said that Minneapolis and St. Paul are militarily strategic for an invasion. And the reason being is the Mississippi River starts about 3/4 way up Minnesota, and it flows all the way down south, and it exits in the Gulf. So I believe that when they did this whole Floyd thing, they wanted they're defunding the police out there, so on and so on and so on. Maybe somehow, some way, it was in their plan to see exactly how the civilians were there, or whatever the case is. And we'll get to the civilian part here soon. So now, at the same time, you're coming into Washington and coming into California, and I feel like a freaking madman when I say this. I really do. At the same time you're doing that, you're going to come into Minnesota, and you're going to try and take over the Mississippi River all the way down south. And along the Mississippi River, you have a lot of large cities. So you can go ahead, and if you look at the large cities on the Mississippi, you will honestly see exactly what's going on. As you're taking over the West Coast and you're able to take over the Mississippi, once you're successful at it, now you can basically come from the Mississippi to the west, and from the west to the Mississippi. And now you're going to squeeze anybody in between. Now, during this, once you have the West Coast and you have it completely secured and you have your Navy on there, Hawaii is going to be useless. Hawaii it will be completely useless. I look like I got a freaking alcoholic's nose. So, anyways, if you, and I'm really fair skin, I guess maybe just because I'm hot, I'm embarrassed. I'm blushing. So once you have that, don't you think they'll just, he goes, hey trucker, 512 King. I really, there was thought on that, right? But if you look at what nukes obviously do, I mean, it really destroys the land. I really think that there's too many minerals, too much gold and silver and iron ore and so on and so on. I really believe, and we'll kind of get into that. So I think that I really don't think that they would just drop a nuke. It would be way too easy, and it wouldn't be worth their time. Because if you're gonna, you need to take over a country, and you need to keep their resources, right? And I've always said that America is self-sustaining. I don't even know why, and I understand there's trade deals, and you got to be friendly with your neighbors, and so on and so on and so on. But there's always an ulterior motive at the end of the day, right? There's always an ulterior motive. Why? And I don't know. I guess we can go into that right now. I don't know if people are aware of how the U.S. dollar became so strong, the petrodollar, right? I want to say back in the 50s, maybe a little sooner than that, or maybe earlier than that. Saudi Arabia they were hated by a lot of the Middle East, and they still are. So Saudi Arabia approached the U.S. for protection. Basically, they said, if you back us as an ally, and they were the leaders in oil back then, right? If you back us as an ally, we will only sell our oil in United States dollars. And the U.S. said, hell yeah, why wouldn't we? And that's how the petrodollar became so strong. That's how it became the #1 currency in the world until now. Now, obviously, it's shit. And that's another thing that's more than likely going to happen. I think that the stock market is completely inflated, where people are just, these large corporations. If you look at Zuckerberg and all these other guys, Amazon, and Amazon, basically, the owner sold all of his stocks. I want to say he's close to being a trillionaire. So I think they really inflated the stock market so these corporations could get as much money as they possibly could to make their preparations or buy their security or whatever the case is. And along the security line, when people say, well, why would these politicians sell out America? Well, first off, because they're greedy and they're foolish. And they think that, oh, well, you know, if we did sell her, and along that line, when I was looking at Chinese technology, so America obviously has a stealth fighter. China also has a stealth fighter. Not as good as our stealth fighter, but it's proven that they actually there's technologies on their stealth fighter that are identical to our stealth fighter. So they know that our secrets were sold to the Chinese. So along that line, if you I guess we'll just get back. So anyway, so that's how the petrodollar became so strong, and that's why I really think the stock market is so inflated right now, because all these billionaires and millionaires are selling their stuff so they can gain more money and they can make their own security. And if the politicians, if they're that foolish and that greedy to think that, oh, once an invading force takes over, I'm going to have it made in the shade. No, you're going to get shit on, and probably even worse, you're probably going to get executed because they look at traitors like that as scum, in my mind. So that's kind of why I really don't think that we're going to get nuked, and the reason being is because we have too much in our land for them to ignore. You have to figure China's got 1.7 billion people, and so I watched a lot of documentaries on plastics in the ocean, and they say by 2050 there's going to be more plastic in the ocean than fish, and you still have Fukushima in Japan pouring into the into the oceans. So there's more and more mercury in fish, and there's this and there's that. So a lot of Chinese food obviously comes from the ocean. I mean, they grow, stuff inland and so on and so on. But if you look at it kind of logically, if the U.S. is your number one threat, and I really don't know if Russia is or not, but if you really think that the U.S. is your number one threat, first off, you're really going to want to eliminate them, because China has always talked about being the superpower. And if the ocean is going to have more plastic in 2050 than fish, China is going to be in a lot of trouble for their protein, for their meat source, right? So therefore, you can't nuke the U.S. And I could be extremely wrong. I don't know. I mean, this is just a theory, right? At the end of the day, I'm just speculating. Like I said, I'm not a philosopher. I'm not a military strategist or anything like that. It's just really, honestly, it just makes sense to me. So if you invade the U.S., you get all of our minerals, you get all of our fresh lakes, you're getting all this fish, you can move people in, you can basically, because, China's just growing and growing and growing. So I really think that they're and everybody's talking about food shortages right now. I listen to Ice Age Farmer and stuff like that, and it's very intriguing, especially, my wife's an RN in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And everybody who subscribes to my channel pretty much knows that, and I'm a semi-driver. So there's more and more people coming out saying that there's a lot of food shortages coming, that this is just the beginning. Farmers are plowing, crops in the ground and so on and so on. So I'll be honest with you. If somebody would just drop a nuke on me and I could just poof, go like that and go to the Holy Land, shit, I'd be all good with that. I mean, that would be the easy way to go, right? But then this land that they invade would be useless, or the land that they want and I really think that they need would be useless at the end of the day. So now, if anybody has any other questions, I appreciate you guys being on here. Like I said, I don't do live streams. It's just I think because of the content of the videos, I'm having a really hard time downloading. The one, like I said, the one I did earlier was took hours and hours and hours and hours. So back to the theory. So if you have another question, or if you disagree, I'm cool with that. I got such an open mind. I'm very transparent. So if you squeeze from the Mississippi and you squeeze from the West Coast and you squeeze anybody in between, that's easy for that. Well, I wouldn't say it's easy, but that's more. I would say that militarily is probably the right thing to do. Now, if you control the entire West Coast, and that's why I think the West Coast obviously is so important because it's easily defendable. Because Hawaii, and if you have Japan, I would really honestly think that our allies would not be much help, because obviously on the East Coast you have Britain and Germany, and you have these other so-called Italy and stuff like that. You have these so-called allies. Now on the West Coast, you're basically that would be the easiest and the less likely for people to come and try to defend or try to get back the West Coast, because on the West Coast that's pretty much Russia and China and everything else. Now Hawaii being such a small little land or little island, which has a huge naval force, but once you take over the entire West Coast from Canada all the way down to Mexico and Central America, Hawaii is useless. That's done. That's done. If they're not already taken out, right? While this is all going down, and maybe they would just nuke Hawaii, because if you're gonna get the U.S. and you nuke Hawaii, what's the big deal? I mean, I'm not saying that in my mind it's not a big deal, but to them it's like, oh, what's the big deal? Now you have less naval and you have less resistance. So, anyways, once you were to close in and squeeze everybody from the Mississippi to the West Coast, now you could basically move east, and you could start. And at that time, the allies from Europe would be to the East Coast. And that's why, like I said, the West Coast is just that important. And the Mississippi is just that important. You squeeze it out, because by the time it would take a long time for them to squeeze out, the resistance in between, months, a year, maybe somewhere in there. By that time, we'd already have our European allies on our East Coast, right? So now it's going to be more of a fight. So you would probably have Venezuela and you'd probably have Cuba trying to land somewhere on one of the coasts in the Gulf somewhere, probably in Texas somewhere, or in Louisiana or Mississippi, somewhere in there, because as they're coming up from Mexico, they're going to go up through Corpus Christi and up through Houston, and then get over and then just start pushing that way. So if you had Cuba or whatever the case is in Venezuela, and if you had a couple other Central American allies, obviously you would push it up. Now you're talking about the drug cartel too, which would be funded by the Chinese, and they would actually have so much firepower, and so on and so on and so on. So that's where I really think, that's what I really think is going to happen. Sounds right. I'm sure they would want our goods. I really do. And why make their people work for the minerals, right? Because I truly, I was really surprised when I was watching and reading stuff yesterday. I was really surprised at the Chinese Navy. I was really surprised. They only have one aircraft carrier. I was really surprised. And it's actually a good question for Google. So how many aircraft carriers does China have?
2 aircraft carriers.
Oh, okay, 2 now.
Here's a summary from real.
They only have 2 aircraft
China
carriers.
currently has,
How many aircraft carriers does the United States of America have?
according to Wikipedia, the United States Navy has 11 large nuclear-powered fleet carriers, carrying around 80 fighter jets
All right.
each.
So the U.S. has 11 aircraft carriers. So with that being said, now when I delivered up in Seattle, I delivered to the military, the naval base out there, and that's why I know that Seattle has a large aircraft carrier base there. So when I was checking into security, I saw these. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever seen an aircraft carrier like close up. I mean, it wasn't like I was probably a couple hundred yards from it. Those things are enormous. And they were just sitting there floating, but they didn't look like they were newer style aircraft carriers. So I asked the security guy, I said, are those active? He said, actually, those are Vietnam era aircraft carriers. And I said, wow. I said, what do they do with them? Are they just going to cut them up and scrap them, or what do they do? He says, actually, what they do is they take out the sensitive items, all the radar and all the, the secret stuff. And he says what they do is they put it away and they secure it or whatever, and they just keep these floating barges, basically floating there in case something were to pop off. Then they take and they put the sensitive items or obviously newer technology in them because they're still really good hulls, right? So I was really intrigued by that. And there must have been, now they said they have 11 active, but I think, hold on one second, I'm sorry. It said it had, as of October 2020, there are 43 active aircraft carriers in the world. Oh, in the world, okay. So if the U.S. has 11 large nuclear powered aircraft carriers, that's quite a few, especially when you have China that has 2. Now they also, like I said, the Vietnam era aircraft carriers that were sitting there, there must have been 4 or 5 of them, maybe. I didn't count. It was many years ago. Probably 2014, 2013 or something like that. So that was pretty interesting that we still keep these for the just in case, right? So now